They locked me in the chicken coop. A teenager's voice trembles, and the air turns cold.
This time, though, a detective noticed something off about a staircase.
September 2024, Farmington, New Mexico. A 15-year-old girl named Georgia steps forward, her body fragile, but her words unshakable.
We are treating this investigation as critically important and as if it was a member of our family or my daughter who was missing.
She accuses her father and his girlfriend of cruelty that defies belief. Police move in, and what they find inside the home raises even more questions. Locks, cameras, secrets.
The case has been one of DA Rosen's top priorities for us to solve.
Was this the desperate truth of a child or something else entirely? Tonight we uncover the evidence, the denials, and the murder that shattered everything. The case is open before us. Will you look closer? Georgia's cry for help. Georgia was only 15 when the weight of her secret finally broke. She had carried it for months, maybe longer, while silence pressed down on her like heavy chains. One evening, she sat with her Aunt Kathy, and the truth slipped out between sobs. She spoke of doors locked behind her, of days that blurred into nights, of being forced to stay inside a chicken coop meant for animals, not children. Her words came in fragments. She said she was denied food. She said her cries for the restroom were ignored. She said she was treated like something less than human. For Kathy, it was too much to take in at once, but she listened. She let Georgia cry, and when the girl was done, Kathy knew this was no story made up for attention. It was a call for help. The next step was clear. Authorities needed to hear it too. A forensic interview was arranged where trained specialists listened as Georgia repeated what she had endured. Each detail she gave made the room grow colder. Each word carried the weight of a child who had been waiting for someone, anyone, to believe her. The Warrant and the House of Secrets. 4 days later, Farmington police arrived at the Jackson home with a search warrant. The house stood quiet, its walls hiding more than anyone could guess. Officers knocked and were met by Patricia, James's girlfriend. She seemed calm at first, even helpful, but her eyes told another story. The detectives asked her to secure the dogs before they entered. Patricia agreed, but her steps were slow, her voice uncertain. Instead of leading a dangerous animal away, she opened a door and let one slip out. The dog wagged its tail and walked straight past the officers, nothing like the violent guard she had warned about. The delay felt like more than confusion. It felt like a trick. Inside, the search began. Rooms, stretched further than expected, filled with clutter and shadows. It was as if the house itself wanted to keep its secrets hidden. Then a noise from the back. Someone had been watching through a window. It was James. When he finally stepped out, hands raised, his excuse was simple. He claimed he had been sleeping, but the house was not small, and the officers had already checked every room. Something did not add up. The chicken coop and the locks. Behind the house, in the dirt and weeds, stood a small wooden coop. At first glance, it looked like a simple shelter for hens, but when detectives leaned closer, the details grew darker. A chain hung from the side, a padlock dangled from the latch. Inside, the floor was bare earth, scattered with straw and waste. It was no place for anyone to sleep, let alone a child. Georgia had said she was kept here from morning until midnight, only allowed out twice a day. She had said she was forced to relieve herself inside, with no dignity, no privacy. Now the officers saw how her words matched the setting, the smell, the stains, the silence. It all told the same story. They took photographs, they searched for anything left behind, any trace of her presence. Every angle of the coop seemed to echo her claims. When they stepped back, one thing was clear. This was not just a place for chickens. It had been turned into a cage for a girl who was never meant to live this way. The interviews and denials. At the station, James and Patricia sat across from detectives. Both were calm on the surface, but their stories shifted with every question. James claimed his daughter was troubled, that she lied to punish him. He said she was difficult to control, often stealing and fighting. Patricia echoed his words, describing Georgia as hateful and unstable. When asked about the coop, Patricia shook her head. She said she had no idea why Georgia would invent something so strange. James agreed, insisting it was impossible. Yet the lock on the door and the chain in the yard told another truth. Detectives pressed them on other details, the bathroom schedule, the claims of hunger, the punishments that went beyond reason. Patricia blamed a counselor, saying they were only following advice. James distanced himself, claiming he rarely disciplined his daughter. Their words sounded rehearsed, hollow, like lines repeated too many times. The more they denied, the stronger the evidence grew. Each excuse added to the sense that something was being hidden. The truth was not in their voices, it was waiting in the messages they thought would never be seen. Cruelty in messages. The truth did not come from their mouths, it came from their phones. Hidden in long strings of text were words that stripped away every denial. Patricia wrote to James that Georgia could not be trusted. She suggested building her a cage. In another message, she reminded him of bathroom times, 7:45 in the morning, 5 in the evening, and asked why the girl was outside those hours. Other texts were colder still. Patricia ordered James not to feed Georgia. She told him to let her starve until she begged for food. She mocked the way the girl walked, the way she looked when her stomach ached. In one line, she even said she wished the child had died with her mother. The padlocks found at the home matched photos of locks Patricia had sent to James. Chains appeared not only in the yard, but also in the trunk of her car. Every cruel instruction written in their messages became a piece of evidence no denial could erase. It was proof of a pattern that had gone on for far too long. Patricia's murder. 5 months later, the story took a violent turn. Patricia was preparing for court, the weight of the child abuse case pressing down on her. That morning, her daughter Giselle stayed behind, worried but unaware of what was about to unfold. Moments after Patricia stepped outside, sharp cracks of gunfire tore through the air. Giselle ran to the driveway and saw her mother collapsed on the ground, blood pooling beneath her.
She had to go to court at 8:30, and I told her I have an appointment at 10 with my counselor, and I told her I would go with her.
Panic filled her voice as she screamed for help and called 911. She told dispatchers that her mother had been shot, that someone had fled across the street wearing dark clothes and carrying a backpack. Officers rushed to the scene, shields raised, not knowing if the gunman was still nearby. They pulled Giselle away as paramedics worked on Patricia, but the wounds were too many, too deep. Patricia was placed into an ambulance, but she never made it to the hospital alive. The cruelty that Georgia had described was now overshadowed by something new. A murder in plain daylight, outside the very house, already stained by accusation. The case was no longer just about abuse. It had become something far more dangerous. Patricia's murder. February 2025 brought a twist no one expected. Patricia, who once denied every claim, was gunned down in her own driveway. The morning was meant for court, another hearing in the child abuse case. Instead, the sound of gunfire cut through the quiet street. Her daughter Giselle dialed 911 in panic. Her cries filled the line as she begged for help. Officers arrived within minutes, their shields raised, unsure if the shooter was still close. They found Patricia lying on the ground, blood pooling beneath her, wounds across her head and body. Paramedics rushed her into an ambulance, but she never made it to the hospital alive. Neighbors spoke of a man fleeing on a bicycle, a dark jacket, a backpack strapped tight. Surveillance cameras later caught the same figure loading the bike into a truck. For investigators, the case shifted in an instant. Patricia had gone from accused abuser to victim of a brutal killing. The timing, the method, the fear on her daughter's face, all of it raised questions no one could ignore. The courtroom would have to wait. Now the focus turned to finding her killer. A community turns. The town of Farmington was already on edge when Patricia was killed. For months, anger had grown louder. Online comments called for punishment. Strangers hurled insults, threw rocks, even threatened her daughter in the street. The case had left the community divided, and many believed justice was moving too slow. When the gunfire came, suspicion spread quickly. Some pointed to James, but cameras showed he was at court that morning. Others blamed Jonathan, who was found inside the house. He admitted hearing the shots, but claimed he never left his room. His words did not tie him to the crime. Attention then shifted to Patricia's ex-husband, Mark. His blue pickup matched the truck seen on cameras. His past anger was no secret, and investigators pressed him hard, but the evidence began to drift elsewhere. A breakthrough came when officers found a bicycle, a jacket, and a .380 handgun dumped near town. Tracing the clues led not to Mark, but to his older brother, Matthew. Store cameras showed him buying new shoes and a gas can the day before the killing. His glasses matched those at the scene. Quiet, overlooked, he had left behind the trail that revealed the truth. In the end, Matthew was charged with murder and held without bail. Mark was released, though his shadow lingered over the case. James faced trial for child abuse, while Georgia was placed in the care of her grandmother. The courtroom battles were far from over, but the damage had already carved deep scars. A girl's whisper had opened the door to hidden cruelty. A shooting had turned whispers into screams. Families broke apart, trust collapsed, and a town was left staring at the cost of silence. Justice may come, but nothing will erase the darkness already lived.